Hey guys, today's video features the Max Speeding Rods Q96 head unit. This is a double DIN unit featuring a 7-inch touchscreen, and I'll be installing it into my Chevy truck. Along the way, I'll show you what comes in the box, talk briefly about its features, show you the install process and what you use to do that, and then finish with my final thoughts on the product. I do want to thank Max Speeding Rods for collaborating with me on this video. They didn't compensate me financially, and I'm free to say whatever I want about the process, but they did provide me this product for review purposes.
Looking inside the box, I found the head unit was well packaged with foam blocks to keep it from getting damaged in shipping. Mine arrived in great shape. Unpacking everything, we have the unit itself, a wiring harness with pre-cut insulation, a GPS receiver, stereo plugs, as well as an external microphone adapter for hands-free calls, 2 wired USB ports which can charge devices or play music, a plug to wire in a backup camera, metal housings for the mounting that I doubt you'll use, mounting screws, plastic trim tools, a cheap microfiber cloth, and finally, an instruction manual. The front of the Q96 features a 7-inch touchscreen, a volume knob, 2 USB ports, an aux port, and a built-in microphone for hands-free calling. I really like that this unit has a volume knob. It's easy to adjust while wearing gloves in the winter, or in general while driving without taking my eyes off the road. Pressing it also returns you to the home screen from any menu. The back of the Q96 features ports for all the wires we just saw, as well as a plug for FM/AM antenna, a fuse, and a fan. It's summertime and has been about 105 degrees Fahrenheit in my area, and I'll show how this unit handles the intense summer heat later in the video. Now, let me show you how easy it is to install a new head unit into your daily driver, starting with the wiring. The Q96 harness comes with pre-cut insulation, and each wire is clearly labeled. You can either splice it directly into your vehicle or use my preferred approach, which is to wire it to an interface. I used this one by Crux, which comes with a control board and a wiring harness that will plug into your original radio connector without forcing you to cut and splice into your vehicle's wiring. Using an interface keeps your factory wiring in good shape. If you make any mistakes, you've only hurt the interface. And it makes the install easier because you can wire everything up in the comfort of your work area. And then, in the cramped vehicle interior, you just plug it in. Let's wire the harness for the Q96 head unit and the interface together. This can be done with butt connectors and a crimping tool, or you can use solder and a soldering iron. I chose to solder because I really need the practice, and even with my poor skills, everything works fine. To connect the harness and the interface, match up the wires one at a time and solder them together. They're almost always the same color, and both are clearly labeled. Usually when I'm soldering, I connect my wires together in a line, but the fine strands weren't cooperating with me, so I put the wires side by side and twisted them together. Then I heated my soldering iron, placing the tip behind the wires to heat them up, and let the solder melt through from the front and flow toward the heat source on the other side. After letting it cool, I folded the wire over to make a straight line and used a small propane torch to fit the heat shrink tubing, which protects the wire from damage and shorting out. With all the wires connected, it's time to head outside.
Next, we're gonna come into the truck and we're gonna remove this panel. So, essentially what we're gonna be able to do, this right here all comes off. We could use those tools that were included with the kit, but honestly, you can just grab and pull. The best place to grab and pull is right here because you can get your hands under it. It's kind of a little harder to do that here. And you just pull with a fast motion. If you pull slowly, it's gonna resist you for a long time. If you pull quick, like that, it'll pop off and you can just work your way around. So little short, fast pulls. Work around all the corners, and then it'll be loose. Now your shifter will be in the way, so you don't have to start the car, but turn it on, shift all the way down to 1, and then also lower your steering column. And out it comes. Now the radio here is secured by a couple of small bolts. We'll come around to a first-person view, and you'll see there are 3 bolts. These are, I believe, a 7mm on this truck. So we'll just get them all loose. I like to save the easiest bolt to get to for last. I guess we'll just have to pull this out while the truck is running. Seems mildly dangerous. Now that we've got this out, we can go ahead and shut the vehicle off. this just pulls out. This is our radio antenna. Like so, you can see it's just got a thick connector. And then this, I'm hoping that I can just squeeze these. Yep. So that has our stock radio out. Ooh, it's burning hot because it's just like 110 degrees outside. It's insane right now. And now we have this, and we have that. We have a big hole. So there's a few things that we can note comparing the old unit to the new. One, the new unit is very small. I purchased a trim piece and a trim setup kit, which is designed to work with this vehicle. And it's got some little hooks here, and it sort of press fits together like that. And so you get a pair of mounting tabs that can slide back in here. And the goal is for these to line up like that so that you can mount your stuff inside. Obviously, I'm not trying to put that together in a really detailed way. And the reason I'm not, it's both too long to get either edge down and too wide to get either side down. You can see that's quite a bit of extra deflection there. So I'm not gonna end up using this. What I'm gonna try to do for the moment is just see about getting this in here in any fashion and then kind of go from there. So here's the plan I came up with in terms of making this fit. What I discovered was that if I put in just one of these and I push it all the way to the back like this, that everything lines up correctly as far as the face is concerned. But the second screw hole is about here and there's nothing built in. So we can't see the hole, but if we go forward all the way, we just see it to start to peek through. So right there's the hole. And what I figured was, if I basically come forward from the bottom of that sort of oval shape, come forward like that, and then I come up from here, where those two lines intersect is roughly where I can drill a hole, and I'm gonna try to eyeball it. Right there is where I'm gonna put my hole. Here's what that leaves us with. We drew our line, we eyeballed our other line, and now we have a nice brand new hole. It lines up pretty much perfectly. Same approach worked on the other side as well. It can still slide in kind of a useless direction, but I guess that's always technically possible, and once I tighten them down, yeah, that's not going anywhere. So now we will do the same on this side. Now obviously, as you can see, this part is not ideal. You can tell that it doesn't really fit flush, but all I'm really interested in are these two. Now onto the install. Sorry for the cicadas. We've got everything plugged in on this and ready to go. We've got our interface. We also are going to run a couple of USBs, so I'll show you how to do that as well. Starting with the USBs, I got to figure out where on this area I want to mount them. I thought about using the blanks right here, but they look a little difficult to get access to. So I think I'm just going to put a hole in right here, because it's important that you can get to the back side of it. What you buy is a USB panel, and then on the back it's got a nut which you can slide in, and from the back side this is going to tighten down. This body is threaded so that you can get this stuff held in place. So there's a couple things we got to do. One, we got to make a hole and figure out where. I'm going to do that right here in the center of this piece because I can get my hands back in here, and I've checked to make sure I can route a wire around. I may pull this out of the way too here in a minute, but I think I'm going to start by going ahead and getting this hole drilled. The principal tool for that is a hole saw. This is a 1 1/8 or a 29 millimeter, and it's just going to go right here and then cut us a nice circular hole through there for our mount to go. All I'm going to do is drill a pilot hole first. So I got to think about roughly where I want this to be. I'm not going to worry about measuring it or anything too much. I'm just going to use this to kind of visualize where the hole could live. I'm going to press and turn so that I score a little area. Then we're going to go ahead and drill our hole. Again, this is a pilot hole. Going to change our drill bit out for our big hole saw. All right, here we go. We're just going to Line that up, and now we're going to use gentle pressure and let the saw do the work. So, there's our hole. No problem. We can deal with cleanup on that later. Obviously, we'll have some vacuuming to do. We got some little plastic hairs that are going to get formed around here. So we've got the hole drilled, and we've got the USBs threaded in. What we're going to do is thread our wires down through here, and they will come out under this. I may have to pull this off. In fact, let me show you how to do that. I have a interior trim removal kit. I know that the radio came with a couple of tools, but I use this. It comes with gear for depinning wires and electrical connectors and taking off all sorts of those little push button pins and things. This guy has essentially a little tab there that locks into the side, so I'm going to pull that out of the way. I don't know if I'm going to have to remove this guy or not, but I'm going to get him started as well. Same process. Makes everything kind of easy. And I'm just going to pull this off. This has a press fit, basically. So I'm going to use a couple of pliers just to help me pull. Like that, because that's kind of hard to get hands on. It is still connected here. Now that I've got that loose, I'm just going to push this guy back in. Like so. I had considered trying to put the blank right here. Let me tell you why I didn't do that. It's a big enough size to fit this over just fine. The problem is these. So these are supposed to go around the back and hold this in place like a sandwich. But this one won't fit at all. And this one, while it technically fits, you couldn't turn it. So you'd have to like press this in there and then rotate that. That just seems like a huge pain. So while I personally would love the look of this, having a USB plug right there, and possibly even right here I decided instead to just go right here where these other two plugs are. I think that'll work fine. So we're gonna fish the wires down through this hole here, and then they'll come out this side and I can grab them and pull them. And then I can get them to come all the way out down here, because this is really what I want. Now that they're down here, I can deal with hooking this stuff up. So this is what our interface is doing for us. Just gonna link the tab up there. We're gonna plug this in. So now the radio is getting power. All right, now we're just gonna cram all this stuff back in here, out of the way, into a spot that we are okay with. And I need to make sure I have got these USBs routed in an okay spot. This radio unit is so small, so this will sit in here just like that. Put our screws in. A reminder, what I'm going for right now is functional. It's a 2004 truck. I don't really worry too much if it looks show class. That's not what I'm into. I just want it to work and be upgraded. So I'm not using a trim piece that goes around here because, as I showed earlier, this was a little bit larger than the usual size. Now let me go ahead, make sure I have pulled those USBs out of the way like so. And now we can just go ahead and tighten her up. And now we're going to get these connected here. So these are going to come down through there, pull through. Now we can go ahead and slide our mounting nut through here. We're going to push that through. Now we're reaching over the top, and we're going to start trying to thread in this plastic nut, which we have just enough wiggle room to get our fingers on. I did end up doing it by turning this, and I'm just picking my fingers up to tighten it. That's fine. Okay, so see, now it's in there. Now we're going to connect our cables like so. We just need to stow them at this point. This is all set. We'll line these holes up, push it back in. It's just a force fit. This guy can go back in. Now we should have USB in this truck as well as these two, which these play music. I don't know if these are going to be charging only. Either way, I'll be happy to have something to charge with. Last but not least, we have to get this trim piece back in. You guys can then complain about how lovely of a job I did with no trim around here. The bottom is going to be visible right there. That's the only thing that kind of sucks about what I'm doing. And we need the key in so that we can move the shift lever. So we're going to put the shifter all the way down into first. We're going to lower the wheel as low as possible. And then slide this guy down over top of here. And we're going to press this top part, which is pretty flexible, to go under that. We set it down pretty low. And there, we get it in. All right, so now we're just going to line everything up. And then these just push back in. So this is our finished product at this point. We got the radio. It sits a little high here. Go ahead and peel this off. And obviously I could do something about the trim there. As the driver, you're gonna see that. I might look at trying to 3D print a bezel panel myself at some point after taking measurements for this. But for the time being, we have what we need. And now we can take a look at some of the features. Here we go. Gonna get some AC going too, because it's pretty hot out here. So first of all, we're seeing CarPlay not available. To use CarPlay, enable Siri in the settings app on your phone.
Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
Okay, so apparently this is CarPlay. It's got maps up showing my location, which I'm not gonna dox myself. We've got this cool overlay. It does have GPS on this unit. However, I did not install the GPS reader because unfortunately the fastener seems to have fallen apart as I was going to screw it onto the back of the unit. So we don't actually have GPS. That looks super cool though. We've got music, of course, and radio. I wasn't able to get the radio to plug in. Hindsight reveals that we have to purchase an adapter, so I don't actually have a working radio at this point in time. I'm sure it'll just be static, so I'm not gonna worry about that. If I decide to pull up navigation, there's a built-in navigation, which probably will not work because I don't have that working. Not really what I'm too worried about. Again, we can press that to go back home. I'm really more interested in if I go to my Maps app here and I search for something, is it going to carry over?
Starting route to Torchy's Tacos.
So yeah, it will overlay what is on my phone onto the screen, which is great. So I'll be able to use this to drive around. I may show you guys detail about what this looks like, but you've seen a Maps app before. We've got these different apps that are installed here. Kind of interesting. I wonder if I'm only going to get audio.
Latest firmware update, DAD23.
Looks like it. But what we can do is listen to podcasts, which is great. So shout out to Tony Robbins, Random Children's Books, because I have a 4-year-old, The Editing Podcast, and Ryan Moran, George Bryant. Shout out to all those fellas and ladies. And yeah, that is basically it. I don't really use my phone a whole lot for streaming music because I live in the 90s. In addition to the obvious, I have picked up a 128 gigabyte pen USB drive, so a very small USB drive. I'm going to test it here and test it here as well. We're going to start with this that I got wired in. I don't know if that's going to do anything. We'll hit music. And it does look like these are powered because it's loading music through here, which is cool. Got some groovy jazz, Mood Indigo by Thelonious Monk. Hello, copyright. Here we can check out folders, for example. I've got a whole initial D collection. We'll just cue that up. Oh man, it's hitting. All right, so now we've got a 2000s era truck with 2020 technology to listen to 1990s stuff. 1990s Eurobeat will be coming on the way. That's the main stuff that I'm interested in. There are more things that this unit can do. You can also swipe down from the top, and that way you can adjust brightness, which I have turned down all the way, so I'll turn that up a little bit so you guys can see what it's capable of here. And we can turn on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, screensavers, all manner of things, edit settings. Also, if you ever break the volume knob, you can adjust volume this way. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm into it. As you've probably noticed, I'm a simple guy with simple needs. I want to be able to play MP3 from USB, and I'm happy to play them with the stock amplifier built into this unit on the stock radio equipment. I really don't care too much about any of that stuff. Additionally, it's a bonus treat for me to be able to have GPS mirror from my phone up onto the device. And that's all I really need. That's all I really want out of a unit. But I know that this is capable of doing a lot more, and reviewing that stuff is kind of outside of my usual sphere. So what I'm going to do instead is pop 2 videos up onto the screen and link them in the video description as well. These are 2 YouTube videos that I have watched in full, and one goes into detail a whole lot about the audio hardware capabilities built into this unit. The other goes into the software and all the menus and all the things that it can do. So check both of those out. Otherwise, thanks again to Max Speeding Rods for partnering with me on this review. And I hope that this video has given you the confidence to see that you can do this sort of thing as well. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day and happy motoring. Peace.